Now at 9, a Southeast Kansas church honors our local first responders with a lunch. Plus, we'll hear from some members of the Gen Z generation about how they reflect on the events of that day, though many weren't even born yet.
The country honors the victims of 9/11 as some survivors struggle with lasting health effects. I'm Mallory Rivera in New York with the details coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Tanya Buck. A Pittsburgh man is in jail without bond after his arrest on multiple warrants over the weekend. He is 40-year-old Jerome DeVore. Police were called to the 500 block of East 6th Street for a disturbance Saturday evening and saw DeVore, who had multiple felony warrants from Crawford and Cherokee counties. DeVore fled into the home and officers heard movement in a connected commercial building. Authorities got a search warrant for the commercial building and then used a police dog to find DeVore hiding inside. Well, we've got rain coming down now. Meteorologist Sam Lane joins us with the first look at the forecast.
You're exactly right, Tanya. Quite a bit of rain across the area right now. You can see in the last 3 hours a big swath of moisture and precipitation moving across southeastern Kansas and northeastern Oklahoma, now moving into southwestern parts of Missouri. Zooming in, you can see the heaviest rain is right now in the Joplin metro area, extending back to the west towards Columbus, also a little bit just to the west of Miami. This is all moving towards the east, and we're going to see the rain continuing through the overnight hours. Temperatures not falling all that much from where they are right now, a low of around 60 degrees by tomorrow morning. One good thing about the rainfall, it's going to help wash out some of the pollen, as it's been 9 today on the scale, which is moderate. Tomorrow, a lot better, 3.9. Most of that being ragweed, nettle, and chenopod. Looking down the lane, we're going to have overnight rain and then some thunder showers on Thursday possible with below normal temperatures, but a pleasant weekend, and I'll tell you all about that in just a bit.
All right, thanks, Sam. A church in Neodesha, Kansas today held a lunch to honor local first responders. St. Ignatius Catholic Church handed out barbecue to police, firefighters, doctors, and nurses. Organizers say it's important to honor the brave men and women who risked their lives to save ours.
My father remembers 9/11 when it happened, and the first responders were a big part of that, and I believe we should give back to them as much as we could.
The Neodesha High School choir sang the national anthem at the event. The Neodesha Funeral Home also served up an appreciation lunch for first responders. This marks the 10th year the funeral home has honored local first responders with such an event.
Back in 2001, it was such a tragic event and such a large loss of firemen. It's just really nice to see everybody kind of come together and support us and our profession and law enforcement as well.
Many men and women went on to become firefighters or EMS or enlist in the military in the days following 9/11. Well, many Americans remember watching the events of 9/11 unfold, but younger generations have a different perspective. KOAM's Amber Jenkins talked to some Gen Zers about how they remember 9/11.
Traveling looked a lot different before 9/11. No high-tech metal detectors, long checkpoint lines, and you could bring a blade up to 4 inches on board. Needless to say, Gen Z can't relate.
I wasn't there when 9/11 happened, but I grew up during the after effects. Tell you one thing, TSA has been a pain, but it's been a required necessary, so that way nothing that happened on that dreadful day ever happens again.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny when my mom and my sister went to Texas to see my aunt. She actually got searched, and she's like this tiny 5'2" woman, and it's just like taking no chances with her and her purse, I guess. She must have just looked like quite the criminal, but it was just crazy for me to hear that they took her away from the line and like to a separate room and just freaked her the heck out. And
most of Gen Z experienced the aftermath of 9/11 through their loved ones.
Until I first came to the United States, I was studying on Texas when we had a small, I think it was 5 minutes of silence for all the victims, and that's where I've learned, oh, it had a huge impact here.
My mother knew it was a great tragedy, but she was really struck by it because of my dad, since my dad is, well, now he's retired from the military. Pretty sure he joined in 2003, served 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 tour in Iraq, and 1 tour in Kuwait.
Navy SEALs took out Osama bin Laden. I remember waking up, getting ready for school on May 2nd, and my dad coming in and saying that they got him.
The question, what were you doing when 9/11 happened, became a staple. However, Gen Z might not be able to remember, but they do have their own "what were you doing" generational events.
The first thing that I think of is maybe the Boston Marathon bombing. I was in my computer lab class in high school, and before doing my homework, I'd open the internet and see what's on the news, and that was like the first thing that came up. And
I remember COVID. I remember walking back from the park, and my brother was standing outside the door, and he said, "School's off."
Reporting in Joplin, Amber Jenkins, KOAM News.
Nearly 3,000 people were killed in the terror attacks on September 11th, 2001. Well, someone who remembers the events of that day all too well is retired Navy Captain Joseph Gradisher. He visited the Coleman Theater in Miami today to give a presentation about the attack on the Pentagon. At the time, Gradisher worked as a spokesman in the Navy's Chief of Information Office at the Pentagon. He was there when a plane crashed into the building.
When, without warning, we got hit. And I had my back to a window that was right in the direction where the plane came in. And when it hit, there was a big wham! And I ducked because it felt like it was coming in over my shoulder. And then you think your first reaction is to run, but it's to look out the window.
Before the presentation, people were able to meet Captain Gradisher and speak to him personally. Well, strong mix of emotions sweeping over the country as Americans commemorate 22 years since the September 11th attacks. But while memorial ceremonies will take place to honor the fallen, first responders are calling attention to the pain many former 9/11 rescuers are still grappling to manage. Fox News correspondent Madeline Rivera is in New York City with the latest.
The country is remembering not only the 3,000 lives lost on 9/11, but also the acts of heroism that followed the deadliest terror attack on U.S. soil.
We have the memorial pools, and I come here often, and I say my thoughts and prayers to my brother.
Friends and family members of those who were killed on September 11th are holding on to the memories of their loved ones.
The children of my sister, Diane Bullis Snyder. They have evolved into amazing human beings. And one of the things that I notice when we spend time together is that I'm blessed with a glimpse into the spirit of my sister.
Monday marks 22 years since the attacks at New York's World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and the airplane crash site in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. But while memorial ceremonies for those who died will take place across the country, the New York City Fire Department is also calling attention to 9/11 first responders still struggling with lasting health effects from handling toxic materials at Ground Zero.
For them, 9/11 is every day.
The number of firefighters who died from 9/11 related illnesses continues to rise. The FDNY recently added 43 new names.
This brings the total post-9/11 members added to the wall to 331.
And while today will carry a solemn note, New York City Mayor Eric Adams says it's important to remember how the losses brought the country together.
Remember September 12th. This city got up. When we got up, America watched.
Instead of attending the memorial events at the attack sites, President Joe Biden will honor the victims with remarks at a military base in Anchorage, Alaska, as he returns from Vietnam. In New York, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
Coming up, devastation in Morocco.
Rescue crews are heading into the remote areas hit by that devastating earthquake on Friday. I'm Trey Yingst in the High Atlas Mountains. I've got the details coming up.
First responders are on the forefront of some terrible situations, and that can take a toll on their mental health. With September being Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month, support comes from nearly every angle. Chris Bryant has more from Springfield.
We aren't Superman. We're Supermen. We're simply individuals trained to come deal with somebody else's worst day.
Not all calls for help are the same.
As a patrol deputy, you are going to see several types of calls where the normal human or the normal person is never going to see something like that in their entire life.
So when those we call for help need help themselves, what can they do? Deputy Paige Rippey with the Greene County Sheriff's Office says it has a support structure in place 24/7.
We have a mental health staff on staff all the time. We've got counsel that they can seek anytime that they would like.
In addition, the Sheriff's Office has clergy the department can interact with as needed. Captain Scott Guccione says for the fire department,
So our goal and the city's goal is to help individuals process those traumatic calls when they happen.
according to the U.S. Fire Administration, first responders account for 1% of all suicides in the United States. Of those, law enforcement make up 58%, firefighters 21%, EMS 18%, and dispatchers 2%. For some first responders, talking about a traumatic event may be difficult, but the mindset is changing.
The stigma has broken down a lot. The last 10 years, it really has fallen apart. I can't say that it's completely gone. I wish it was, but it's not. But we're knocking that door down. We're making progress at it.
But there are times too that those police officers do need to express their feelings and to get it out there to make themselves feel better, because that stuff just gets bottled up, and it can lead to other incidents that are tragic.
Support for first responders isn't the only thing some groups are working on. Support for the families of first responders is a priority.
A lot of spouses have put together a Facebook group. They see it on the backside. They see when the guys and the gals come home and they've had a rough day, and that sometimes that's hard for us to communicate to our spouses. But the other spouses recognize that as well, and then they know what it's like when their fireman comes home and had a rough call, and they can help translate that to the new member's wife or new member's husband.
And it just isn't when something happens nearby, but when the tragedy happens to the first responders community from far away.
You want to be there to support them, and it's always that thing that you have this camaraderie with all of these members of the law enforcement community, and that's something that's rarely talked about, but when it is talked about, it's very important.
Meteorologist Sam Lane is next with a complete look at your forecast. And later we'll hear from the Missouri Southern Lions after they get their first win of the season.
Well, friends, we had a beautiful weekend across the 4 states. Lots of sunshine, pleasant temperatures, and low dew points. And now we have a batch of rain moving through the area, but we definitely need the rain, so we're not going to really complain too much. Let's start out this morning at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. And as we go through the day, you can see lots of clouds moving in from the west. And then as the evening progressed, we started to see the rain moving in to our area. In fact, some of the areas are seeing some heavy rain. We'll show you that in just a moment. We made it up to 75 today after starting out at 64. We're pretty close to the low right now as well. And of course, if you average it out, we were below normal today. We're also way below normal on the rainfall. But tonight, at least we have some in the rain gauge out there, stretching from southeastern Kansas right through southwest Missouri down into northeastern Oklahoma. Some of the heaviest rain right now is in the Joplin metro area. And generally, rainfall amounts have been around 1/3 to 1/2 inch in some of the heavier showers, closer to 1 inch back towards the west. You can see the green here. This is where 1 inch or more has occurred. So it looks like the folks in Oklahoma and south central Kansas came out winners as far as that goes. Unfortunately, the drought is continuing across the area. How bad is it? Well, if you go all the way back to January 1 of 2022, right now we should have about 65 inches is what we've had so far. We're supposed to have 78, so we're about 14 inches behind. And we've been behind for almost a year. In fact, next week will be the week celebrating, or if you want to celebrate it, a year of below normal rainfall for the past years. That shows you how bad the drought is. So we definitely need some more rainfall. Temperatures right now are generally in the mid-60s with northeasterly winds. Rain chances tonight are going to be high right now, but then they're going to be dropping as we go through the overnight hours into tomorrow. And tomorrow looks pretty good. Here's the system over us now. That's moving away, but then some cool air is going to filter in behind that system. And then as we go into Wednesday and Thursday, here comes the next storm system, but it's going to mainly go to the south. So most of the rain is going to stay down in Oklahoma with that particular system. In fact, looking at the rainfall amounts between now and by the time tomorrow morning, most of the rain is going to be down to the south with maybe another inch or so or 1/2 inch down to the south. Then as we look at temperatures tonight, we're going to see them dropping into the 50s up to the north and west, 60s elsewhere with the rain moving away. Then tomorrow afternoon, partly cloudy with highs in the mid 70s, a very pleasant day. Then as we go into Wednesday morning, look at these lows in the 40s up to the north, 50s to the south, so a very cool morning. And then Wednesday afternoon, partly cloudy with highs in the mid to upper 70s. And then Thursday morning, lows in the 40s up to the north, 50s elsewhere. And over the next 7 days, the next chance of showers will be Thursday night, only at 20%. And then the weekend looks great with temperatures in the upper 70s and lows in the 50s. And the nice weather just continues for the most part right on through to the early part of next week. Fall is here.
I'm glad to see that. And if we don't have another rise in temperatures, that would be wonderful.
I'll do my best.
Keep it down. Keep it down. This is nice.
That's right.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Sam. Well, a race against the clock to find survivors days after a deadly earthquake rocked Morocco. Fox News correspondent Trey Yingst has the details.
The search for survivors underway in Morocco after the 6.8 magnitude earthquake destroyed homes and blocked roadways. Officials say some villages still can't be reached.
Sometimes you find someone alive, sometimes not. They have already died. But there is hope. I rescued 3 people here and 10 in the other village above.
In this village in the Atlas Mountains, some roads are blocked by landslides. Shuttling the injured and dead from the area quickly can only be done by helicopter. Survivors are desperate for help to find loved ones feared trapped under the rubble. One woman, Fatima, lost 10 family members and more are missing.
Within seconds, everything fell down. Some people managed to run out of their houses. Others didn't make it.
Dozens of countries are providing manpower and aid to help rescue efforts, with the UK and Spain dispatching emergency relief officials, search dogs, and rescue equipment. Meanwhile, on Monday, the UN Human Rights Council held a moment of silence in honor of the quake victims.
Let us honor those who perished in Morocco and affirm our unwavering support for one another during trying times.
The Moroccan government responding to criticism about their response to all of this, saying they have promptly addressed the disaster. In the high Atlas Mountains, Trey Yingst, Fox News.
Well, coming up, the deadline approaches to avoid a strike by the United Auto Workers Union against major car manufacturers. The president of United Auto Workers says they remain ready to negotiate in Detroit 24/7 as the deadline to avoid a strike fast approaches. General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis have until midnight Friday to reach a deal with the union. Ivan Rodriguez breaks down the numbers and explains what could be behind the recent labor activity.
Time is running short to avoid a historic strike at America's 3 unionized automakers. Union members are fighting for increased wages, restored pensions, and protections against job losses as production shifts to electric vehicles.
These negotiations are serious and they matter. The outcome impacts all of us.
Just 10 days of an auto workers' strike on all 3 companies could cost the U.S. economy $5 billion, according to consulting firm Anderson Economic Group.
We measure that as a positive that corporations are doing well, but if they're not putting that money back into their companies and back into the workers and back into the economy, then there's no benefit for their profits.
We've seen at least 70 strikes in the last year, with 100 or more workers participating for more than a week, according to a Cornell University database. A 40% increase from the year prior.
I think this has been building for a while.
And they are enjoying overwhelming support from the public. A record high 61% believe unions help rather than hurt the U.S. economy, according to a recent Gallup poll.
The issues that unions are going on strike about and organizing over resonate with the public. The idea that corporations are making huge profits during times when workers are really suffering.
In Atlanta, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
After months of picketing, actors and writers have revived a push for strikers to receive unemployment benefits. The Writers Guild of America joined the Screen Actors Guild and other unions in a rally Thursday in Culver City, California, to show their support for Senate Bill 799. If the measure were to become law, workers in California would receive unemployment benefits after 2 weeks of striking. They've been on strike since May 2nd. Up next, we'll learn which pups took home the top prize at a dog surf-a-thon in California over the weekend. More than 50 dogs showed their surfing skills at the Rancho Santa Fe, California beach yesterday. Canines and their owners took part in the 18th annual Helen Woodward's Surf Dog Surfathon, raising funds for orphan pets at the center. The Best in Surf winners were Sugar in first place, Delilah in second, and Guinness in third place. Look at those dogs. 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports coming your way. How Missouri Southern is helping students fight food insecurity. Plus, we hear how some Southwest Missouri schools are teaching about 9/11 as part of American history. Watered Gardens in Joplin will host its 11th annual Empty Bowls event later this month, but some people just can't wait. An early bird special started today for people to buy the bowls handcrafted by local artists until the 23rd. The sales support organizations that feed people.
It keeps the momentum going, and people just like the idea that it brings the community together, which it does, and just the environment, the vibe of the Joplin greenhouse that we're having it at this year. We are going to be receiving a percentage of the sales of the coffee from the coffee bar the evening of the event. So it's just it's a way to bring everyone together, and who doesn't love a beautiful pottery bowl that's handcrafted just for them.
You can come buy a bowl early at the Joplin Greenhouse and Coffee Shop. The actual Empty Bowls event will be held at the coffee shop on September 24th. Food insecurity on college campuses is an invisible epidemic that one organization at Missouri Southern is helping combat. KOAM's Elise Noe has more.
As college students head back to school, it can be easy to forget just how much they have on their plate. But one of the biggest struggles for students isn't what's on their plate, but what's missing from it: food. 44.9% of Missouri college students experience food insecurity as of 2021. The Lion Co-op at Missouri Southern is helping their students combat food insecurity with their food pantry.
Students can come in when they need to and kind of shop and then take what they need. And we don't really have a lot of restrictions. We ask that they take what they need for a few days and then they can come back.
There's often a stigma around food insecurity, but as grocery prices increase, so does the demand for affordable food.
And really with the cost of food being so high right now, and then just the cost of education, and many people have food insecurity, and it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Samantha White, a student intern at the co-op, sees the difference it makes with her peers on campus.
I had one student last year come to me saying last year it helped him a lot, and he's in a lot better place because of what support Lion Co-op gave to him last year.
Food insecurity and food instability are just some of the financial struggles that Missouri college students are facing, and places like the Lion Co-op help make that burden a little more easier to bear. Reporting in Joplin, Elise Noe, KOAM News.
To learn more about the Lion Co-op, you can visit their website at mssu.edu/lioncoop. Well, Pittsburgh State University today held its annual Patriot Day Remembrance at Kearney Smith Stadium in honor of the victims of 9/11. Student cadets with the ROTC fired the cannon there 4 times, once representing when the first World Trade Center tower was hit, and then again when the second tower was hit, and then 2 more times when each tower fell. The cadets also took turns reading off the names of the 2,977 people killed that day. Well, it's been 22 years since 9/11. That means many new teachers are too young to remember the attack. Marina Silva spent the day at a Lebanon, Missouri school, seeing how the newest generation is teaching and learning about that horrible and tragic day.
Suddenly, an urgent message came loud and clear. John J. Harvey.
Mrs. Loudon is a 3rd grade teacher at Maple Crest Elementary. Today, she's trying to focus on the heroes of 9/11.
I read a book that's Fireboat, which is more about the heroes of the 9/11, how they helped with the firefighters when the water couldn't get. That's what we did.
She, along with fellow teacher Mrs. Lowry, remember where they were when the towers hit.
I remember watching the second plane on TV with my principal,
And when our kids were coming back from specials, we were told, put on a happy face, continue your day as normal.
We watched it on TV unfold, and that's how I found out it was happening from him. And we watched it until the kids came back, and then it was a day as normal.
Back then, they just didn't bring it up in school.
Just because that was something we needed families to do, not us.
Now, they focus on the heroes.
We try to keep all of our class discussion more positive based, talking more about the heroes of that day.
Mrs. Loudon says she plans to continue the lesson by reading another chapter book to her class.
A bit later, staying safe on a trendy transportation option.
E-scooters are popping up everywhere because they're fun, they're fast, and they're cheap, but they can also be dangerous. I'm Caroline Shively in Washington. We'll take you through the do's and the don'ts coming up.
Well, we've got quite a bit of rain falling across the 4 states tonight, and it is certainly welcome because of the drought situation. Let's take a look outside right now at Seneca, Missouri, at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Lots of cloudy skies and rainfall falling there. You can see the wet pavement there in the parking lot, and we're expecting the rain to continue for at least a few more hours, and then it will start to taper off a little bit. We started out at 64 this morning. We made it up to 75. Now we're back down into the lower 60s across the area, and the rainfall that we're having today is certainly going to help with that drought situation, but we're still 11 1/3 inches behind so far just this year. And that's not counting the drought from last year. And looking at the radar right now, you can see quite a bit of rain stretching from near Pittsburgh to Joplin, down in Neosho to Grove and Jay, down into Bentonville. But the back edge of this is now starting to move into our western counties, so the rain will continue for a little bit longer, and then it will start to move away from us off towards the east. You can see some heavier showers right along Interstate 49 through Carthage, down to Joplin, down to Loma Linda, down towards Seneca, right now on Highway 60. Here's the look at the drought, and of course we've been talking about this quite a bit, but it is so exceptional in southeastern Kansas with Chautauqua and Elk counties, and also parts of Vernon County and over there in Cedar County. It's just getting worse with each passing day, but hopefully this rain tonight will help out a little bit. Temperatures right now are in the 60s for the most part, 67 in Stockton, 66 in Nevada, also 66 for our friends in Miami. Rain chances are going to be highest right now and then decreasing as we go into the overnight hours, and then very, very few as we go into tomorrow, basically near zero. Here's that system tonight moving away from us, but in its wake, we're going to have some cooler air moving down from the north and west. And then as we go into Thursday, here comes another wave, but it's mainly going to stay to the south and west. So the best chance of showers on Thursday evening is going to be on the Oklahoma side. And rainfall amounts tonight are going to be heaviest. Of the remaining rainfall is going to be mainly down south of I-44, where they could pick up another 6/10 or so in some of the heavier showers. As we go through time, you're going to see those move away from us with lows in the 60s tonight, some 50s up to the north and west. And then tomorrow, partly cloudy with highs in the mid-70s, a beautiful day. Then as we go into Wednesday morning, check out these lows, 40s up to the north. So definitely feeling more like fall out there, and lows in the 50s down south. And then Wednesday afternoon, partly cloudy with highs in the mid to upper 70s. And then Thursday morning, again, maybe a few 40s sprinkled in here and there, but most everyone else will be in the 50s with increasing clouds. And then on the forecast, we're looking at those showers Thursday evening with a high of 74. And then look at the weekend. Temperatures in the upper 70s and lows in the 50s with sunshine. Can't hardly beat that. And then next week, more of the same with only a 20% chance of showers on next Tuesday.
Yeah, the temperatures are great. I love this weather right now.
Oh, me too. This is perfect football weather too.
Yes, it is. All right, well, coming up in sports, Seneca High School softball tries to get its first win of the season on the road at Carl Junction. Plus, Missouri Southern football looks ahead to week 3 after winning at Washburn last Thursday. John Dales has those stories and more up next.
Missouri Southern football is 1-1 for the second year in a row. The Lions are coming off a nail-biting 30-23 win at Washburn this past Thursday. And after the Lion defense put the game away with an interception, they want to do more of the same going forward.
Honestly, I was just looking at my man,
And then once I turned in, I figured out it was a scramble. Like, you know, my D-line was almost getting to the QB. And then I see a tip ball in the air, and I just went up and I grabbed it. And also, it was my first interception, my first career interception ever. So I guess I was saving my first for the best one, I guess.
Just watching the defense fly around and make that play obviously is great. You know, we understand that there's going to be times where our offense is going to have that ball and they're going to need to punch it in to win the game for us. And so whichever side is called up will be the side that delivers the win for us.
Missouri Southern not receiving any votes yet in this week's top 25. Across state lines, Pitt State most definitely is. D2 coaches poll released today. There's the top 10 on your screen. The Gorillas remain number 3 after a dominant road win at Fort Hays State. They outscored the Tigers 27-0 in the third and fourth quarters of that one. PSU, one of 3 teams in the MIAA to be ranked in the top 25. Northwest down from 5 to 15 after losing to Emporia State. That brings the Hornets up to 12 though. Central Missouri not in the 25 but also receiving votes after a 2-0 start to its season. Over to pro football, the Chiefs announced that the wait is over. 4-time All-Pro defensive end Chris Jones will be rejoining the team after a months-long contract holdout. The two sides worked out a new deal for 1 year. It was agreed upon today. We don't know the specifics of it just yet. However, we do know that it's filled with incentives for Jones to make more this season than his previous contract would have allowed. In local softball, Seneca picks up its first win of the season this evening on the road at Carl Junction. Abby Jamrose has a big day on the mound and at the plate for the Indians. She goes 4 for 5 with 4 singles as the Indians take down the Bulldogs 9-6. Meanwhile, Nevada falls to 11-4 with a 3-1 loss at home to Holden. Tigers started their year with a loss, won 11 in a row after that. They lose 3 straight now. They're back on the road at Logan Rogersville tomorrow. And in pro baseball, Cardinals have shown some signs of life recently. They've won their last 2 series on the road against playoff hopefuls Atlanta and Cincinnati. In the first inning of this one, they're playing the Orioles in Baltimore. Wilson Contreras continues the good vibes. He lines one into center. That's a single, and 1 run's going to come in to score. 1-0 St. Louis. We go to the third. Cards down 2-1, but then Nolan Arenado lines one into center again, into the gap. Another run scores. Game's tied. 3 batters later, 2 runners on, and Jordan Walker rips one into left field. 1 run scores. Cardinals have a 4-2 lead in the 5th inning, but that's where this one went a little sideways. Baltimore down 5-4, and Cedric Mullins tees off on one to deep right field and out. That's a grand slam, makes it 8-5 Orioles at that point. More of the same later on in the 6th. Gunnar Henderson goes deep to right and gone. Orioles win it 11-5. That's all for sports. Back with more news after this.
The use of electric scooters is skyrocketing across the country, and for a good reason. They're cheap, eco-friendly, and a blast to drive. They can, however, also be a menace, taking over the roads and sidewalks and sending riders to the ER. Fox News correspondent Caroline Shively has more from Washington.
Everybody knows this guy on an electric scooter, driving too fast, or too slow, and definitely too stupid.
They not following the scooter lane, they ain't following the bicycle lane, they ain't even following the walk lane, so why we got all this, I'm not understanding.
On any given day in North America last year, there were 172,000 rental e-scooters on the road or the sidewalk.
But I like to go slower on the sidewalks, especially if it's crowded, I'll just kind of weave in between people.
According to the Department of Transportation, 51 cities have bike shares and 156 cities have e-scooters. In North America last year, 37% of those battery-powered trips replaced car rides and offset 74 million pounds of CO2 emissions.
It's pretty fun, it's pretty cheap, I enjoy using them.
But not everyone riding should be. The American Association of Pediatrics recommends kids under 16 not drive e-scooters, for good reason. Nationwide, for every 100,000 trips on an e-scooter, there are 20 to 25 trips to the ER.
we see a lot of traumatic brain injuries, a lot of concussions. You can protect yourself and potentially save your life if you are wearing your helmet. Make sure only one person on the scooter, that's a stand-up scooter, no drinking while on the scooter, and make sure you have lights on, especially if it's at nighttime.
So, love them or hate them, you're going to see more of them. Globally, the e-scooter market is expected to double to $31 billion by 2028. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
Coming up, we take a look at what is new this week on Fox. This week, Fox TV brings 2 season finales and a Hell's Kitchen-inspired MasterChef semifinals. Here's Fox's Ashley Dvorkin.
Musical game show season finales are part of what's hot on Fox.
Let's start tonight by shaking our groove thing.
First on Monday, it's an encore night starting with Beat Shazam.
We're in big trouble.
That's followed by the episode of MasterChef United Tastes of America with a 55-foot wall challenge and cooks relying on great communication to stay in the competition.
Hit it!
Tuesday, Beat Shazam is all new, and it's a Battle of the Ages season finale. Teams of millennials, boomers, and Gen Xers square off for the $1 million prize. That's followed by the season finale of Don't Forget the Lyrics, hosted by Niecy Nash, with the final contestants of the season singing missing lyrics live with an in-studio band as they also go for $1 million there.
It's a crossover, baby!
Wednesday, it's the semifinals on MasterChef United Tastes of America. The top 6 take over the world's largest Hell's Kitchen restaurant. Then the remaining 5 take on 2 rounds of challenges to get to the finals. Fox Sports wraps up the week with MLB on Fox Thursday and then WWE Friday Night SmackDown. Over the weekend, Fox Sports presents College Football Saturday, and Sunday brings the animated fun of The Great North, Bob's Burgers, The Simpsons, and Family Guy. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
All right, that's our time for tonight. Thanks for joining us. We're going to leave you with video of an addict's calf at the Brookfield Zoo. Have a great night and an even better tomorrow.